Let's talk about Dune.
Okay. We talked a few sessions ago. It may have been last session. I can't remember.
Last session before.
We talked about the book, and
Yeah.
we promised that we would review the movie and the miniseries and compare to the book.
Yes.
Today
We watched the movie today. We have not yet watched the miniseries. We will.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't watched it yet.
We watched the movie directed by David Lynch, and now we're gonna give you our thoughts on this.
For starters,
thing.
what a dumpster fire!
It
wasn't good.
It was dare I say bad.
Yeah, it was oof.
And we both
do you want to do compare and contrast then review, or review then compare and contrast?
Let's compare and contrast.
Okay, yeah, we'll start.
So, and I think that you wrote most of that down, and I can just
wrote a lot of
add
stuff
on to it.
So just I'll give you guys my notes.
To start,
the movie starts. There's like a little spiel about all the planets. We find out what everything is, and we find out everything about it, and then it then opens up with the Emperor, and the Emperor is paid a visit by this weird-looking, crazy alien thing, which is not in the book.
No, the whole opening scene, even take out the alien, it's still not in the book.
Yeah, that entire opening scene, not in the book. And see, here's the thing. That alien is a recurring character. That is never in the book. So
there were things that it was doing. Like there were dialogue-less scenes with no dialogue, where the alien was just doing something. I had no idea what it was doing.
No clue. I was so confused.
It looked like it was creating planets at some point.
It did.
It was
looked
flying
like it was
in
like,
this
it looked like it was
city.
like shooting a laser beam out of it. You remember the old like ASDF like shoot the whoop, like I'm a firing my laser. Bah. It looked like that, and it made planets with it. It was so weird.
Inside of a city. It was in a city. It had no idea, and it looked weird too. And it talked, and there were these other guys that were talking that I don't know who they were from. Were they Harkonnens? No.
I think the guys with the alien were part of the trade people. The trade.
They
group.
were, but at any point in the book, did it talk about them having to use translators and looking weird, and they have tubes going to their heads?
Yeah, and with like split open heads and plastic. It was not good. Anyway,
and it looked nasty.
They all looked gross. So, in the book, one of the big things is Baron Harkonnen. His plan for Arrakis is to defeat the Atreides and then instate his nephew Gosu Raban as its Baron, and then he wants Gosu Raban's brutal tactics to destroy the people, at which point he will take out Gosu and he will put his other nephew Fade Rafa in control, and the people in Fade Rafa will treat them softer and they will love Fade Rafa. That's his whole plan.
Oh, by the way,
Fade Rafa knows this. Him and Fade Rafa talk politics all the time. At no point in this film do Baron Harkonnen, which they pronounce it Harkonnen, whatever. At no point does Baron Harkonnen talk politics with Fade Rafa.
Also, Sting
Sting
played Fade Rafa. Yes, the frontman for the police
plays the 15-year-old Fade Rafa.
he looks like 23.
Fuck,
he looks like, you know what he looks like he belonged in? What? He belonged in that opening scene from Terminator. With those guys sitting under the light, with Bill Paxton flipping a switchblade. That's what he looked like.
I agree.
We'll talk about the costumes and hair and makeup and all that.
Yeah,
in
the review.
Keep going.
Right
now, I'll talk about it here in a minute. But you go ahead.
More about Baron Harkonnen. Baron Harkonnen is a fat man.
He is.
The book makes a point to say that he is disgustingly fat. To the point where he has sort of an exoskeleton-ish suit of straps that are made to support his weight so that he can walk around. Key word there is walk. Baron Harkonnen does not walk in this movie. Baron Harkonnen flies.
He flies. And
what the fuck?
It doesn't explain how. He just does. He's just floating.
Flies.
He's just floating around.
It never explains that his suit lets him fly. He just flies around. Apart from that, so that's enough of the Atreides.
Hold on. Also, Harkonnens have these things that are attached to their heart.
No, it's not just the Harkonnens. It's like everybody that works with them. They call them heart plugs, and it's just these weird little plugs. He kills this guy by like unplugging it.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Oh, and the Baron in the film, I've listened to the audiobook, and I'm pretty sure in the book it also mentions his voice being a deeper,
very deep.
In the movie, voice is high pitched. He's acting like a maniac, and not like he's
this like crazy like bloodlust monster who just wants to kill and torture others.
Here's the deal: don't pay to watch this movie. Watch it on Amazon Prime if you have
it. It's not on Amazon Prime. If you have Amazon Prime, you can link an HBO account to it and watch it. It is on HBO.
Okay.
If you pay for HBO Now, HBO Max, it is on there. I have HBO Max and it's on it.
In the book, when we are introduced to the Baron Harkonnen, he is sitting at his desk.
Is it Vladimir Harkonnen?
Vladimir Harkonnen. He is in his desk, covered by shadows.
In shadows.
Silhouetted by shadows. You cannot see him. You hear his voice.
As he speaks to
it isn't until
to his Mentat, Piter, and in the corner sits Fade Rafa. Yes. So Fade Rafa sits in on all his meetings, so he can kind of get the feel of it.
And it isn't until the end of the scene in the book, until the end of that scene, where he leans forward out of the shadows.
Yeah,
and it's supposed to be menacing. It's supposed to be kind of menacing.
Yeah, almost in like Baron Harkonnen is a mastermind.
Yeah, he's a tactician. And in this movie, at no point is he doing that.
Yeah,
he's just just acting wacky.
The scene that would happen, he's in a fully lit room with some doctor poking holes and giant boils he has on his face and sucking blood out. Yeah. It's gross as hell.
It is. It's not charming in the slightest.
Yeah. So anyway, enough about the Harkonnens for now.
The opening scene of the movie is like the stars, and you hear the Princess Irulan speaking. She fades in. She talks. She fades out. It's still the stars. She fades back in, still talking. She fades back out. And then she fades back in, still talking. And then she fades out again. It just keeps doing it back and forth.
It's rough.
Every time I was like, is this going to be where we finally get into the movie?
And it just
wasn't. She just keeps doing it. And I was like, who directed this?
Yeah, so Fade Rafa is portrayed as this just maniacal, bloodthirsty dickhead.
He's quiet in the books.
In the book, he's like a quiet, reserved fighter.
Kind of a nice guy, actually.
He was pretty kind up until the end.
Up until the very end. Because
at that point he has to step in.
Well, yeah, because he's kind because he's with the other Harkonnens, and he's with the slaves of the Harkonnens, fighting in the gladiatorial pit, which by the way isn't in the movie.
Yeah,
but we'll get to that. We'll get to that. But in the end, he does, like, for some reason in the book, in the end he does get more active, but that's because he's around the Atreides, who he is known as, all he knows them as is the enemy. Yeah. It's kind of like I'm trying to remember what movie it was. But there was a movie where it's kind of a similar setup. You have this character. You know what it's kind of like? It's kind of like, it's not a movie. It's Star Wars Force Unleashed, where you have the main character who is Starkiller, who's a really nice guy, until he gets to where the enemy is, and he is cold and evil. Yep. It's like it shows in the book. It shows both sides of that, and I love it. In this, he's just a maniac the entire time.
Yep. All he wants to do is kill the Atreides. So Paul, in the movie. Okay, so in the book, Paul has a lot of prophetic visions.
Yeah.
In the movie, he has way more prophetic visions. He has them, like, left and right, like, every couple minutes. He's like, oh, I'm having a vision. Not the way it's like. The worms, the giant sandworms, in the book, you see them coming from the
sand
mounds of sand moving.
Almost like tremors.
Yeah. In this, there are huge yellow lightning strikes that strike the sand around them. Yeah. Orange, whatever. And I'm just like, okay, well, that's not a thing. That's pretty stupid.
Although the worms themselves looked dope as fuck.
The worms looked awesome. The worm, that's one thing I will give it. The worms looked really cool.
Yeah.
There's a very
Demogorgon little thing looking like.
There's a very important scene in the book where Stilgar and the Fremen meet with Duke Leto. And there's this cool moment where Stilgar, I think we mentioned it in the last time we talked about it.
It's one of my favorite moments in the book.
He spits on the table, and a lot of people think that he's offending them, and they're like, no, this is like, he's giving you water. That's a big deal because water is like the most precious thing here.
More precious
that
than
scene
gold.
Doesn't happen.
Not in the book. There's so many great scenes, character building scenes that are just not in the fucking movie.
Another thing, one of my favorite characters.
They skip the beats
in the series is Gurney Halleck, and there's this whole. One of the big things about Gurney and Paul's relationship is that Gurney always has like sort of like a romantic poem-esque quote for every situation. And Paul is like spends a lot of time thinking and wishing how like Gurney was here for certain things so he could like stump him so he couldn't do a comment. At no point in the film does Gurney give a quote like that. Anyway,
no point.
One thing, when this happened, I literally looked at Dewberry and went, what the fuck? So when Paul and Jessica join the Fremen, they give them names. They give them names that are private to them that no one else outside the tribe can say, and they give them another name that all can know them by. Paul's name is Muad'Dib. Muad'Dib. So when they're like, yeah, what do you want your open name to be? And in the book, he asks them, what do you call the mouse that leaps? Mm-hmm. And he's like, we call that the Muad'Dib. In the movie, he's like, what do you call the mouse that resides within the second moon? We called that Muad'Dib. And I was like, what? The fuck? Oh, did it even mention how many moons they have in the book?
I don't believe it did. Maybe in the very beginning. I
can't remember.
Maybe in the beginning when they're describing Arrakis as a place, but it's never prevalent in the story in its themes or setting. Like it's not prevalent.
It's very important. At multiple times do they mention the second moon in this movie, and it's just like not important. It's just like something that they made up.
Yeah. Here's the deal about this fucking movie. It takes. Listen, when you make an adaptation, especially a book as dense as Dune is, and you're not even doing 2 parts, you're doing 1 movie, things are going to get cut out. I understand that. Mm-hmm. They cut out so much and then added in things that weren't in the book.
They cut out important stuff to add in bullshit that made no sense.
I was like, what are we watching?
Yeah. So, in the movie...
Like, what is this?
In the movie, every time we see Feyd-Rautha, we also see Gosu Rabban, the other nephew of the Baron Harkonnen. Gosu Rabban, not that important in the book. We see him like 2 or 3 times, if memory serves. He's not important. In the book, Paul and Chani, they don't start their relationship like immediately. It's pretty quick that they start, but not like immediately. Yeah. In the movie,
there's some time skips, and then they're just together.
In the movie, they meet, and it's like, oh, who are you? I'm Paul. Dude, it's immediately.
It like cuts to them in the hallway making out.
Dude, it's immediate.
No, man, also, man, the casting. You know, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. We'll get there. Sorry, I have so many things to say.
So there's this like big thing where like this guy, Jameis.
I believe it's Jameis. It's either Jameis or Janice. I can't quite remember.
I think it is Jameis.
I think it's Jameis.
Anyway, he challenges Paul to a duel to the death.
Yes.
And Paul, he can't say no. He has to fight. Yep. He fights. He claims his first life and kills Jameis.
Yes. It's a huge step. And that is a
huge point in his life.
Oh, yeah.
Jameis isn't in the film at all.
At all.
Not even kind of.
Not even mentioned.
Yeah.
Nothing.
No. Yeah.
And the thing is,
there's not like another character that doesn't do what Jameis does. It's named Jameis. Yeah. He's just not in the movie.
There's this majorly important, amazing scene in the book where
the funeral.
It's a funeral, and they're all gathered around in like a circle around him,
which is another huge point for Paul's character.
That's what I'm getting to. Is each person will stand up and say, "I knew Jameis as he was my friend," and then they'll say something important about their relationship with him, and how they know him. And everybody keeps looking at Paul, and he doesn't know, what if he's supposed to stand up or what he should do. He's like, "I know I need to stand up, but I don't know what to say. I killed this man. What do they want me to say?" And in the end, he stands up and he says something along the lines of, "I knew Jameis. He was my friend, and without him, I couldn't move forward with my life." Basically, he's like, without him, I wouldn't be able to be Paul Muad'Dib. Essentially, is what he's saying. I wouldn't be able to achieve, without him being an obstacle that I had to overcome. And he gains respect from the tribe that way, and he learns about life and death and the circle of it, and how the water belongs to his body belongs to him, the water belongs to the tribe. And it's a huge thing.
Big deal.
Never mentioned.
Yeah.
Water's not even that important in this fucking movie.
It really isn't.
I mean,
it really isn't.
They bring up how
there's the whole thing about how they have 2 liter johns of water and they're like, that's a fucking fortune. We gotta kill them for it. And he's just like, do you actually have that much? Well, yeah. Okay, well, it's yours. We're not gonna take it, but like, if you get more water, you gotta share that shit. It's nuts. It's unimportant.
No.
It's unimportant.
Yeah. No, they have the suits, right? They might as well not even have the suits.
The suits look kind of stupid.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the shields.
We're gonna get. We have special effects as something to talk about.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that when we do the actual review.
So,
we're doing the review right now, but we're gonna actually go through our
we'll go through our
review
steps. This.
But we are just giving you a general overview of the film.
So in the book,
so bad.
In the book,
who thought this was a good idea?
After like very quickly. Maybe in the time that they join the Fremen, Paul's mother, the Lady Jessica, has to drink the water of life, which is like a spice-filled water that gives her crazy hallucinations. And immediately after she drinks it, Paul drinks it.
Yeah.
And Lady Jessica is pregnant when she takes it, and then she carries her baby to term. She's like 2 months pregnant, and then carries the child to term.
Yes.
In the movie, she's like a month pregnant, 2 months pregnant, drinks the water, and immediately gives birth. And
the baby doesn't die.
And Paul
doesn't
drink the water.
He waits
until like the end of the movie.
Yeah. There's a in the book there's a sequence where he wakes up in his tent, and in the book, and he wakes up in his tent with Cheney, which they don't call her Cheney, they call her Chani. It's Cheney.
Yeah, in the movie it is pronounced Chani.
They didn't consult anybody when they made this. Yeah. But it was Cheney, and they wake up and he wakes up next to her, and I believe in the books, you're welcome to correct me because I'm kind of hazy on this detail, but it's different than they did it in the movie. In the book, he wakes up and he's not feeling well, and he gets sick, and he's sick for a while, isn't he? Or is something?
Can't exactly remember.
But in the book or in the movie, they have him wake up. He wants the water so bad, which in the book he had already drank. But he's like, he needs it so bad. He's like dying. So they take him out to the desert. They take him out to the desert, tie him up for some reason.
Yeah, bind his arms
and legs, wrap him up, lay him down, pour the water in him. He has a vision. And then, by the way, the whole tribe is out here watching this, right?
Not the whole tribe.
A good chunk.
It's Cheney, Stilgar, and his 15 personal guard.
Okay. Yes.
Who so real quick, really cool.
Oh, we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
But they're all out there.
In costume.
He takes the thing, he has a quick vision, and then when it cuts back to the whole group, there's just giant sandworms next to them. Not just sitting there.
A ring
just
of
sitting
giants
there.
Just chilling, watching
yeah, I'm like,
that's neat.
And then it makes you think that Paul has somehow learned, and he even says it, like, and by the way, there's so much internal dialogue in this movie, but he says, and we'll get to that in the writing, but he says, I now have control over them, and he starts controlling the worms, which doesn't happen in the fucking book. Mm-hmm. It doesn't happen.
Okay, so also, the Atreides mentat is Howat.
Mm-hmm.
Howat,
Thufir Howat.
Yeah, Thufir Howat. He's forced to join the Harkonnens after the Harkonnen mentat dies. Mm-hmm. And they poison him in a way that they give him an antidote every day to keep him from dying.
In his food.
He
doesn't know about it.
They don't know. He does not know he's poisoned.
He doesn't know that there's the antidotes in his food every day.
They're keeping him alive so that should he stop working for them, he will die. In the movie, they're like, oh yeah, we poisoned you. Here's this bald cat that you have to milk every day for your antidote.
Tied to a rat. A rat was taped.
Yeah,
to it was. It was in this weird container that wasn't even like a container. It was just like sticks, like gross, metal bars, dude. And like just
so gross.
4 metal bars connected with a cat in the middle, taped to a rat. And he was like, "Milk this so you don't die." Yeah. Like, who wrote this? Who thought this was a good screenplay? I don't know if Frank Herbert was alive in 1984. I haven't done that research.
Yeah, I don't know.
If he was, though,
here's
the deal. If he was, he didn't approve of this, and if he wasn't, he rolled over in his grave when it was released.
So, there's no slow build up to Paul being the leader and Paul being the Messiah Muad'Dib. He joins the troop. He's Muad'Dib. They're like, okay, you're God. We'll follow you.
Only after the princess grabbed a guy by the throat.
They skip every character's story arc except for Paul, and then they butcher Paul's story arc.
It's bad.
Oh my god. Paul does not have a son in the movie.
In the movie.
He does not have a son in the movie.
May I?
Hold on. I'm almost done.
May I have a son?
What?
I'm joking. All right, go ahead.
So there's a very important weapon in the book called the crease knife.
The Chris knife.
It is never mentioned in the movie.
We see it.
He at the end when Paul duels Fade, he's using a crease knife.
It doesn't draw attention to it.
Because look, we know what it's described to look like, and the knife that he uses in that duel does fit the description. They never mention it.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorite scenes in the book. Actually, my favorite scene in the book is this. Okay, so to give you some context, I want you to read the book. But I mean, it's all spoilers. You know this by now.
Yeah. If you haven't read it, sorry.
Gurney Halleck.
What is it? The movie's 30 years old.
Gurney, the doctor of the family of the Atreides family is the one who betrays them. Dr. Yue betrays them to the Harkonnens because he wants to kill Baron Harkonnen, and this is a way that. But you have to. He betrays them. Gurney Halleck thinks that it's the Lady Jessica the entire time
because that's what he's told.
Because that's what he's told. And then years later, because the book takes time skips, and so does the movie.
The movie takes 2-year time skip.
Years later, Paul and Gurney run into each other in the desert, and they reunite as old friends, an old mentor and mentee. I don't know if it's mentee, but student. And they go back to the tribe, and there's this amazing.
Paul brings Gurney with him.
There's this amazing scene in the book where Paul enters the tent of Lady Jessica, and before she can say anything, he's got his arm around her throat and he's ready to kill her. And then Paul comes in because he thinks that she betrayed his Duke. Yeah, betrayed them all, and he is ready to kill her. And Paul has to talk him down and explains that it was Dr. Yue. And then Gurney, feeling shameful about the whole, or about not only.
He's like, I was a fool.
Not only holding Lady Jessica basically hostage, about to kill her, but also still the shame of allowing his Duke to die, because his job is to protect him. Mm-hmm. He begs Paul to kill him, and it's this great emotional scene, and it really builds to the end of Gurney Halleck's character development.
He's if I killed you, I would be as good as dead myself, or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it really builds. It's a great wrap to Gurney Halleck's character development through the film, or through the book. Not in the film. Not in the film at all. Not
quite the rap, because there's that whole part when Fade challenges him to a duel, and he's like, "You promised me that I could get my Harkonnen blood. Let me fight him."
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway,
but
the Baron's
not in the book. No, not in the movie.
Not in the movie. The Baron's death was fucked. Funny. In the book, what happens is the Lady Jessica's daughter, Aaliyah, kills him with the Gom Jabbar, this poison that can kill any man in a matter of seconds. In the movie, his death was one step above bullshit slapstick. She slashes him with the Gom Jabbar needle, and then she yanks these hoses out of his chest, and then a hole gets blown in the wall by Paul's forces, and then he can't control where he flies, and so he flies out of the hole in the wall and right into a sandworm's mouth. And I was just like, bro, what the fuck just happened?
In the book, he dies by the way the Gom Jabbar says that you die, which is essentially you almost feel nothing.
Yeah, it's like the Gom Jabbar enters your bloodstream and then you're dead.
Yeah. And in the book, that's what happens, and it's really cool, actually.
Yeah, it's neat.
It's scary as fuck. Just the simple touch from it. It's like Rick and Morty when he was at the president's office. The president's office and the Secret Service were trying to attack him, and he's like, "Don't touch me, man." The guy touches Rick, and he just falls over dead. It's like that.
Remember when he's like turns into snakes?
Yeah. It's like, I mean, anyway. you touch it, you die.
So
and in the movie, he flies out into the mouth of a worm, and
it's almost like the Gom Jabbar was pointless.
Yeah. Yeah, we see it happen.
The Gom Jabbar didn't kill him.
Yeah, the worm killed him. Yeah.
My last note is so Arrakis is a desert.
On the changes. Last note on the changes.
Yeah, my last note for this. Arrakis is a barren wasteland of a desert planet. Water is so scarce that we have to recycle our urine and our breath to make water to survive. No rain has ever touched the surface of Arrakis.
At least not in the last million years.
Ever.
Ever?
The point of the Fremen, what they want to do, their goal is to slowly terraform Arrakis to have regular, sustainable life. They want to terraform Arrakis into basically an Earth-esque planet where water is abundant.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the movie, it's just they win, and they're like, oh, hey, cool. And then it just starts raining. And then they're like, oh, that's neat. And then the movie ends.
And people were cheering in the rain. It's almost like Holes.
Yeah.
Holes makes more sense.
Yeah, I do have one more note. There's this whole plot line.
That's what I was gonna explain
about how Chani is the love of Paul's life. Paul loves Chani, but because Paul is the new Duke Atreides, it is not politically correct for him to wed Chani. Mm-hmm. He needs to marry up to
increase the family's power,
status.
Yep.
You know, so he refuses to marry Chani. And in the book, after he defeats the Emperor of Mankind, he then marries his daughter, the Emperor's daughter, the Princess Irulan. And there's this whole big deal about how, despite the fact that the Princess Irulan is his wife, she will forever be less than a concubine. She will not share his time. She will not share his bed. She will share only the name Atreides with him. And Chani will forever be his lover. And that has nothing to do with the movie.
Not in the movie in the slightest.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you to explain one more thing. We talked about the rain. I want you to really... You told me about this, and we were talking about the book. How it explains how long it would take to terraform.
Yes. So, Stilgar, great character, one of my favorites, is the one who explains to Paul their plan. And they're like, yeah, we plan to change our planet over like hundreds of thousands of years. I believe this is not a direct quote, it's what I can remember. He says that we will never see the fruits of our labor, nor will our sons, nor will their sons, nor will their great-great-grandsons, but someday Arrakis will be changed for the better of its people. And then in the movie it just fucking rains. And that, like when the rain started falling, I was just like, you are kidding me.
It was insulting.
Dude, I was so upset, man. And I did mention to DuBarry earlier, I think that if this were an original story, or if I hadn't read the book, I think I would like it more. But that doesn't change it's a bad movie. I think if I hadn't read Dune, I would still think that it was a bad movie. I just don't think I would find it as bad as I do.
And I disagree, and I'll tell you why. Listen, there was... The only reason I knew what was going on half of the time is because I had read the book. It was so disjointed, misassembled, just a mess, that narrative mess that I didn't know what was going on half the time. And half the time I didn't know what was going on, and the other half I only knew what was going on because I read the book. I think that if I hadn't read the book, I wouldn't have known what was going on pretty much the entire time.
It's
I would have been confused. It was confusing for us, and we read the fucking book.
Yeah.
And I don't think I would have enjoyed it more. I think I would have enjoyed it a lot less. It would have felt longer. The only reason I was able to sit through it, the only reason I was able to sit through how long it felt, is because I was like, oh, hey, I know something that's going to be coming up, so I have something to get excited about. And then it wasn't in there.
And then half the time, those things didn't happen.
It wasn't there. I get that they didn't build up Gurney Halleck enough to have that scene, but fuck, if I could have had a good scene with Neil Patrick Harris delivering a killer performance as Gurney Halleck, which by the way nobody gives a good performance.
Whoa. Check that fact.
What?
Neil Patrick Harris.
No, my
does
God,
not
I'm such
play
an
Gurney
idiot.
Halleck. It's
sorry.
Sir Patrick Stewart.
Sir Patrick Stewart. I'm a fucking idiot.
I thought it was so cool.
Oh my God, no. Can you imagine Neil Patrick Harris playing the part?
I couldn't. After the time skip, when we re-meet Gurney Halleck,
got long hair.
He's got like longer hair, but
he's still bald on
Patrick
the top.
Stewart's bald on top, so it's just the hair he has but long. And I was like, dude, I love that. I loved it.
He looked like Trevor from like GTA. He's got the long hair. He's bald on the top. Oh my goodness. So we have so we're gonna go ahead and start crunching the numbers here.
Yeah,
getting into the numbers.
We're not
crunching.
We're gonna crunch. We're gonna get into it.
We're gonna get into the numbers. We have 10 categories, and in those 10 categories, writing has 2 subcategories. And we're gonna get into that in just a second. Okay. So we're gonna start with the lighting. Bad. There were times it was inconsistent, is what I'll say.
Yeah, okay. I wouldn't say bad. I definitely would say inconsistent. I could not agree more with that.
There were scenes.
And again, okay, as far as the review goes, I'm going to try very hard to separate how it should be from how it was. I will admit that will be difficult for me, but I will try as hard as I can.
Here's the deal. When you talk about films that are not adaptations, you can just look at it as a film. When you talk about films that are adaptations, you have to look at it as a film on its own. Just like, when I review Blade Runner, I'm reviewing it as a film, right? So when I'm looking at... Sorry, that's my watch. When I'm looking at this film, though, I want to try and look at it as a film. We've already talked about the story, and any comparison between it and the other film... Or the book will be taken care of in writing, but everything else is as it is by itself.
Okay. Lighting, very inconsistent. You're right. There are scenes where it's hard to see what's going on, and there are scenes where you can see what's going on too well.
In fact, there were times in a single scene where it may be lit one way, right?
But not lit
But then if
way.
it changes shots, it's not the same lighting.
Yep.
And it's not even as bright or as dark, The light temperatures are the same. They're all lit with the same light temperature, but the lighting setups are inconsistent and it's noticeable.
Yeah, I give lighting 3.5.
I want to also mention the desert scenes are very dimly lit.
Yeah, it's daylight during the desert,
and it looked
where clouds have never been a thing on this planet.
Well, it almost looked like they just turned the brightness down. The brightness down for those shots, and I was like, it's too dark. It feels almost like it almost felt like I was watching a desert through night vision goggles that aren't green. Sometimes.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It
So
did not look good. It did not good.
I would give it 3. 3
I'll
on the
go
lighting.
3. I'll give you.
There was also scenes where the lighting was good.
Yeah, but
as a whole, 3. Direction, bad.
Very bad.
I mean,
the performances were not good. There were.
Listen, I have a category on here for acting.
When someone's standing there as a cardboard box and you can't give them direction out of that, dude, fuck off.
Yeah, bad direction.
Even I was like we talked about. We were sure that Patrick Stewart was gonna light it up in his role as Gurney Halleck, and he did not.
Yeah, and that to me shows it's a sign of bad direction. When you have an actor that we know can do great,
a fantastic actor,
do bad, it's a sign of bad direction.
I mean,
and bad script.
We'll talk about him.
We'll talk about
Logan.
Look,
his performance made me cry in Logan.
We can. I actually have a category under here for acting, so we'll get to the acting. But just directing scene to scene. Here's the deal: the film. It'd be impossible to say that this film was uninspired. It was definitely inspired. Mm-hmm. What it was inspired by, I have no idea.
Yeah, couldn't tell you.
They're inspired by the wrong thing.
Yeah.
But it was inspired.
I feel like there were whoever wrote the screenplay had some dude summarize Dune for him, and he was like, all right, yeah, I'll write a movie.
He's like, I had a dude summarize Dune and was like, you know what? I feel like that mixed with 2001: A Space Odyssey with the baby at the end, as an alien monster would have been a good idea. But anyway, direction, it was lackluster. It was very bad. David Lynch, who is known as a great filmmaker, and I haven't seen a lot of his work, but I know he's made good films. Mm-hmm. He even has a master class where he teaches directing.
Really?
Mm-hmm. But
let's hope he doesn't bring up Dune.
This just wasn't one of them. It felt Well, the thing is, there were times. Well, there were times where, one person, everybody acted the same way in this film.
Yeah,
everybody said their lines the same way. Everybody with that certain niche said their lines the same way. All the Harkonnens talked the exact same way. All the Atreides talked the same way.
All the Fremen.
Everybody talked the exact same way as their class that they're with. Mm-hmm. And even if you're just talking about the visual style of the film and his input as a director on that, it almost felt like it wasn't his film and that the studio probably had a lot of interference. But I can only go off of I can't go off of speculation. I can only go off of what I know.
Yeah, what I saw in the film.
So I am going to give the direction myself a 3.
That sounds fair. Yeah.
Writing, 1 is an option. We've talked about it a whole lot already. I did have 2 subcategories for writing just to hit on plot line and character development, but I feel like we've already kind of tackled that.
The plot line was trash, like you said. It was very hard to follow, and the character development was.
It was hard to follow, and we read the books.
The book. Yeah. The character development non-existent.
Yeah, it was existent for one person, and even then, it was just jumbled and trash.
Bad.
So 1, cinematography.
Still
okay. Bad. Here's the deal. Sometimes there were shots where I was like, "Oh, that's really good. That's a really good shot."
Yeah.
But then other times, look, I have some notes of my own that I made while watching the film, and one of the ones I talked about was okay, the camera on shots that should have been tripod shots were shaking. Mm-hmm. And
I don't mean like a little. We could visibly tell
it was just shaking.
The camera is shaking.
And there was a tracking shot where it looked like they were trying to put it on like a dolly system, where it was the opening scene where they came in with the creature and the camera was just bouncing like they were like going over like a fucking train track, and the cinematography as a whole was just uninspired. At no point did I see this.
It was bland.
It was bland. There were so many shots from the side, from the profile of what's going on. So many shots was just from the side, especially on the worm scenes when they're riding the worm. They're just going across. Yeah. Somebody standing from the side, going from right to left, right to left, left to right. There were no dynamic angles.
Right.
There was never
none.
Look for the bad guys. I never saw any kind of Dutch angle. I never saw an inferior or superior shot. It was just
none.
All from basically the eye level, or maybe the chest level, and just flat. There was very rarely. I think the few exceptions
they
were
took no risks.
The few exceptions were the super wide shots of something big. Either it was a ship or a worm. Yep. Those were the few exceptions where it was maybe from a higher view, or from a lower view to make them seem larger. Yeah. But they're really, and there were sometimes there was something creative. There were times when somebody was like walking downstairs and it was like from their personal point of view. But then there was nothing in frame but the stairs, and it didn't show us or give us any more information to work off of. Dude, cinematography, man, it was bad.
I would give it like a 2.5.
I'd give it a 2. I'm not going up 2.5, man. I'm sorry.
in the middle at 2.25.
Fine.
I'm in the middle there.
I'll meet you in the middle.
Because like you said, some of the shots were good.
But man, some of it was
just not enough.
Bad. The desert stuff didn't look good.
It did not.
There
was one like scene where it was like the camera's like flying through the desert pretty much.
At the very beginning.
That looked nice.
Well, the thing is, happened.
That's the only shot in the desert that was passable.
I saw that, and I was like, okay, it may at least look good. And then after that, it just didn't.
It really didn't.
It didn't look good at all. So many repeated shots as well. There were shots.
Yeah.
There was a scene.
All the shots on the worm were the same.
Well, there was a scene There was a scene, and now they did have some minis where the worm. I'm sure they showed it with minis where the worm came up and ate this machine, machine they were using to harvest.
I mean, all the shots on the worm, not of the worm.
But which was a cool shot, by the way. That one where it's like overhead and eats it.
I was
like, okay, that's what I came to see.
I was like, oh fuck, this worm is dope.
Yeah, the worm design is great, but that's more of into the design. We'll get into that in a minute.
It's like almost exactly how I imagined the worms looking.
But I'm trying to think of where I saw the shot. Okay. there's a scene where when he first becomes Muad'Dib, he's standing over this crowd, and he's speaking to the crowd, telling them, I am Muad'Dib, and we'll have to, we're gonna have to fight at some point and everything. And then years later, at the very end of the movie, he gives a speech, and it's the same fucking shots. They shot that on the same day.
It's the same thing.
They shot that on the same day.
It doesn't change at all.
On the same day, same angle, over the shoulder, same
his
people.
Makeup. Not his costume, despite the fact that his years later,
2 years later, his hair's the same.
Age at all.
No facial hair. He's clean cut,
and it's the same shot. It's painfully obvious. Different dialogue,
and same thing with the worm. They shot it all on the same day, and they didn't even bother to have people change costume, rough up their hair a different way, maybe grow their hair, get a beard. It's something. I shot. You know what? I'll say it. I shot a film this past year. It was my senior thesis where I had a character who went through years from one part to the next. And the thing is, the opening scene, he's a lot younger, and he's younger by a good few years, and then the rest of the movie, it's modern day, and he's older. The way that I shot that is I shot all of that stuff first where he had a beard, because he had a beard, and then I made him shave it right before the last day, and then we shot the day one stuff, the stuff that takes place before all of that. So that way it looks like he is older. That's how you do that. They didn't do that. They just had him the same thing. It's so bad.
It was really bad.
Look, man. I don't even know how we got off into this part, but pacing. We're at pacing. Trash.
Oh, dude, that might have been the worst part of the movie.
The pacing was terrible.
Dude, 0.5. It was really bad.
I agree.
Because it was like nothing's happening. Everything is happening.
Nothing's happening.
Yeah. It's like, oh, what's that? You want to pack 50 pages into 20 seconds? I can do that.
Dude.
I can do that. No problem.
Dude,
I'm not good.
Okay, we got to where book one would finish in the book, and we had 47 minutes left to cram. The thing is, book one. Listen.
The movie is 2 hours and 17 minutes.
Here's the deal. In the book, book one ends less than halfway through the book. The entire book.
About, I'd say 2/5 of the way.
And then the rest of it's book 2 and 3, which is going to be combined into one movie for the new one. They crammed that last 3/5 of the book in 47 minutes. God awful.
It was
the pacing
bad.
Tanked.
And you know how they did it?
How'd they do it?
They did it by cutting 2/5 of the book out.
Yeah. 2/5 of the book for like 1/3 of the quality. No, for like 1/8 of the quality. Like it's bad,
dude. It was awful. Yeah, like 0.5 for the pace.
Yeah, it might be the worst. The sound
was awful.
Sound is okay.
Sounded like space when they were in space. Sounded like a windy desert when they were in a windy desert. I don't think it was bad.
The only thing is the dialogue
very quiet,
inconsistent. Sometimes they were at a nice level.
And in the same scene, one character would be very quiet. The other character would speak at a standard volume, and then the next character, without raising their voice, would be loud as fuck.
Yeah. And it wasn't because of their performances; it was the recording levels.
Yeah, you're right.
It's bad. It was 2, 3. Would you give it 3? I mean, what do you give that?
I would,
because sometimes the ambience was great. I'll give them that.
Yeah, like the background sound was really good.
Yeah,
it's the dialogue was the problem. But the dialogue was a big problem. So
I'm adding a category that we hadn't thought about.
Okay.
Music.
I think I would go 4.
4? I'll give you 3.5. I'll meet you at 3.5. I'm giving it 3, and I'll meet you at 3.5.
Fair enough.
Okay. The meaning behind the story. I feel like
there wasn't one.
Okay.
There wasn't. I mean, did you see what I missed?
Okay. What do you think the meaning behind the book is?
Jihad bad.
I think a lot of the book is taking away technology taking away technology. I think it has a lot to say about technology, but also about politics. It's got a lot to say about politics.
It is
political. And if you take it into the context of the time, I'm sure that it's kind of doing what 1984 does. And what a lot of other books is they take the context of the time, put it in a futuristic setting, and then they kind of explain how they feel about what's going on and where they think the world is heading. Okay. Has a lot to say about. I think it has also a lot to say about family responsibilities.
It has a lot to do. I think the book has a lot to do with not conforming and just being the things that you're told to be and making your own way. Because Paul, his whole life, he's like, yeah, I'll be the next Duke Atreides. And while in a way he is, it's not the way he expected. He had to take his life and his way of living into his own hands and adapt. And I feel like the meaning is very much taking what you want to be and how you want to live into your own hands and not being dictated like that.
Yep.
And the movie, nah.
There's no meaning.
Nah.
There's no meaning. It's just the movie.
The movie is look at this space film. That's the meaning.
Here's the movie. A series of things that happen. There is no meaning behind it.
There you go.
There is no story. It is just a series of things that happen.
Yeah, it is events that happen in order.
Yeah.
They don't happen in the same order as the book.
They don't. And they don't have a purpose. Things are just happening. There's no purpose to any of it.
Okay. Back to the heart plugs. When he kills that guy in the scene where we meet the Baron.
Why'd he do it?
Why'd he do it, and what did that have to do with anything?
Nothing. He just did it. Things just happened. Why did he float?
Was that villain bad? Is that why he killed that guy? Villain bad? Yeah, the villain's bad. He's the fucking villain.
Give him a reason, though. Give him...
Yeah, he just did it.
Yep. It's like, why was he floating? He was floating to show the villains are actually like gaining power, so they had him fly higher. He just floated for no reason.
Yeah,
he just floated.
Flies.
There's no reason for things that are happening.
What are we on?
So meaning what? 0?
Meaning.
I mean, there's none.
I don't think we can give it a 0. 0.5.
Okay, that's. You know what? If we're
0.5, 0.25.
If we're willing to go to 2 5s, I'm gonna give it a 0.25.
2.5.
There's no meaning behind it. It's
there really is not.
Stuff happens. Design.
Like production design?
Yeah.
Okay.
Between costumes, sets,
some of the sets,
and colors, and that kind of stuff.
Some of the sets were neat.
Yeah.
Like
some though.
Was it? I think when they were inside a ship and it looked like some hardcore H.R. Geiger shit.
That was no. That was like a city. It looked like to me. I thought that was the Harkonnen planet. On the Harkonnen planet, that's what the city looked like.
Was it the Harkonnen planet? I thought it was before we went to Harkonnen.
The movie isn't clear, Luke.
You're right. Anyway, there's one shot that's kind of like a Blade Runner-esque. It's very clearly a miniature that
looks cool as fuck,
they've built, and they go in on it. Mm-hmm. And it is awesome. And a lot of the props in this film are crazy cool. I don't think I liked a single costume in this entire film.
Let me ask you a question, Luke. You know what? I like the military costumes from the Atreides. I like their military costumes. I thought they looked kind of cool. I thought they looked kind of cool. They didn't look like they belonged in this movie, but they looked cool. Here's the deal, Luke. Let me ask you a question. Can I ask you a question?
I'll tell you one real quick. The costumes I did like, the 15 personal guard given to Paul.
Yes.
All they did is they wore the still suits, which I did not like the design of the still suits, but they
had
their bust, their chest and shoulders were
painted,
bloodied, I guess, and they were red the rest of the film, and they looked really cool once that happened.
In the desert too, when you're like the hot sun on them, it looks dope.
Those were cool. Apart from that, none of the costumes.
Let me ask you a question, Luke. If I took 3 frames, if I took just 3 still frames from the film, let's say the frame from what we talked about, the H.R. Geiger looking kind of city-esque Blade Runner almost thing.
Super cool.
Okay, if I took that frame, and then I took a frame from when we were introduced to Baron Harkonnen, where he's in that chair and everything, and just that wide frame that shows everybody. Well, the wide frame that shows everything.
Okay.
And then I took another frame from the desert with Paul and the guys in the desert, and I put those three next to each other. Would you guess that they were part of the same movie?
They would not look like the same movie.
You don't think that exactly?
They would not look like the same movie.
They would not fit like they belong together because they fucking don't.
Yeah, they do not.
And it's inconsistent colors. The Harkonnen's like green, I guess. There's green sometimes. There was green in the opening scene.
No, the Atreides are supposed to be the green ones. The Atreides colors, as stated in the book. Fun fact: I cannot see the color green, so I couldn't tell you if their uniforms were green. In the book, I believe
they were tan.
Okay, in the book, I believe the Harkonnen uniform is supposed to be green and gold. I believe it's supposed to be a golden eagle on a green field.
Listen,
Was that not what it was?
I don't remember exactly. Look, here's what I mean by this. Yes, their flag had green on it, the Atreides. In that opening scene where we meet the Baron Harkonnen, the walls are green. He's wearing green on him. He's got green in his face. Like he's so much was green.
I don't remember.
And what I'm saying is, it doesn't make sense.
I don't remember if they even said.
I guess what I was getting at was like, essentially, I think the point that I was trying to make was that like, it's inconsistent color palettes. It doesn't mean anything. They were green, even though the Atreides flag is green. These guys are wearing green all over, and it has nothing to do with it. There's nothing. None of the design was made to help tell the story. It was just designed to be cool.
Yeah,
I guess
they were trying to awe people with their designs instead of use their designs to assist the story.
It didn't work at all. At all.
In the slightest.
I mean, it was just ugly.
So design, again, some of it was good. There is diamonds in the rough, but that's not enough to gain an average score for me. It was still bad despite how much good there was in it.
3 is what I would give it.
I would go with 3.5 because I think 4 to 6 is average.
I'll give you the 3.25. I'll meet you.
Okay, I'll meet you there. Yeah.
Acting
bad.
Terrible.
On every front.
And look, we talked earlier, it's bad direction. You can't blame it all on the direction. There was just some genuine bad acting. Mm-hmm. Stale.
And I've seen characters in this film and other things.
Yeah.
The guy who plays Paul Atreides is, if I'm not mistaken, like the main character in Twin Peaks.
He's bad.
Which is fucking awesome.
He's bad.
He also, I don't know if you've ever seen How I Met Your Mother. He plays a character in How I Met Your Mother. Does good in that. Does great.
Who does he play in that?
The captain is what that they only refer to him as the captain.
I don't know him.
Okay. He's only in like a couple seasons. He's not a very important character, but he's like he's like one of like the main characters. I think he might be the main character of Twin Peaks. Great. He's a good actor.
He's just bad in this movie.
But he didn't show it off in this.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. The problem is he might be the best in the movie.
Yeah, again,
it's just bad.
I don't know who played Lady Jessica. Yikes. Piter. Yikes. Baron Harkonnen.
The worst, actually, in my opinion. The only person I think there was one person that gave a decent performance. There was one person. I think it was Leto Atreides. I think he gave
Duke Leto.
I think he gave a decent performance.
I could not tell you the name of the actor who played Duke Leto, but he didn't do bad. He did not do bad.
He did okay. Especially he did okay. And then when
your shining gem was okay.
Here's the deal. He did. I wish you could see Luke's face. He did okay, but what I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, he did all right. He did okay.
Yeah, but he did just okay.
When you put it next to when you put him when you're saying he did okay, and then you're mentioning that he was working with at the time not doing a good job directing and with a terrible script, he's golden. Is what I was trying to say. He did okay, but when you put him next to that, you think, oh my god, he did amazing.
And when you take
because he managed to make that direction and that script sound halfway decent when he was talking.
Yeah, and when you take the, in my opinion, world-class actors, Patrick Stewart.
Not Neil Patrick Harris, although he's great too.
Yeah. Neil Patrick Harris, pretty cool actor. When you take the world-class actor, Patrick Stewart, and you get that performance,
I mean, he was the reason
I love him. I am such a Patrick Stewart fan, but
he was the reason I was really excited to see this. He was the main reason.
Yeah, I was sure he'd knock it out of the park
from his first line.
Yeah,
from his very first line,
he just walks in like
stiff.
He may as well have been T-posing with we're not doing music today. And I was like, dude, what is wrong?
He sounded like he belonged in one of those like 40s movies where they always walk so stiff and they're like, they speak just very flat and stiff. Mm-hmm. He seemed like that. Like he was channeling his like Humphrey Bogart. It seemed like he was doing.
Acting not good. Like a 1.5.
Yeah, I mean.
Because at least somebody was average.
Yeah, I get. Yeah. Special effects. It's terrible.
So,
God.
earlier,
Okay.
we mentioned the shields.
Oh my God! It's just polygons. It's just what the fuck.
Okay, so in the book, they're just like form-fitting shields. In the movie, they turn real people into Roblox characters.
I mean,
it's fucked.
With like visages of them inside the Roblox character.
When it happened, he can attest. I looked at him and I went,
we both.
What the fuck am I looking at?
We both at the same time.
I was like, those can't be the shields, right? And they were.
They were,
and here's the thing: you don't see them just once.
Yeah,
you see them a couple times. They were so ugly, dude. It was like, honestly, it would have been better if they just left the shields out.
Yeah. Would
have been better.
There were multiple times where we were like, oh, I want to see this scene, and then we watched it. I want to see the scene that was in the book.
Yeah.
And then we watched it.
It happened, and I was just like, maybe it would have been better without it. It would have been better if just left it out.
Cut it.
It's ruined.
Scrap it.
It's ruined.
Movie's already too long. Just scrap that.
Oh, dude, it's bad. All right, so
one of them being the scene in the book where Paul rides the worm for the first time. And in the movie, we were both talking and we said, look, halfway through the film before it gets to that.
We were like, yeah, for real. Before this scene, we were talking about it, like getting hyped for it. And then I was like, dude, what if it sucks?
And I said,
what if that scene fucking sucks?
I said, we'll probably say, I wish they'd cut that too.
Yeah. And I was like, I was like, do you have to just leave it out? And he was like, I don't know, dude. Won't know until I see it. And then it happened, and I was just like,
I looked to you, and I just said, I was like, I wish they'd cut it.
I wish they'd cut it.
They should have cut that.
It's like, you would have been better without it.
There were so many scenes like that, and then there were scenes that I was looking forward to that just weren't there. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I hate this movie. Yeah. I almost fell asleep at one point.
I didn't almost fall asleep, but I was bored. I definitely checked my phone too many times.
Imagine loving a source material and being bored that bad.
Scooby-Doo.
Was me. Scooby-Doo. Scoob.
So what's our next topic?
So, special. We still, just...
Okay, special effects, dude, like a half.
That was so bad.
Some of them looked cool.
So maybe not
Some
half
of them.
Maybe 1.5.
But, yeah, that's fair. 1.5.
It was bad. It was bad. How this film?
Hey, as we mentioned, before this movie came out, we had Blade Runner, Alien, and 3 Star Wars films,
and 2001: A Space Odyssey,
And
we were talking in the movie,
which were incredible.
Here's the deal.
Knowing what those looked like, and then seeing this, there is no excuse.
Here's the deal. We were watching this movie, and there was a point while we were watching it when I just acknowledged the elephant in the room, and I said these special effects are really bad. And you said, well, when you think about the time, and I said, actually, Luke, this came out in 1984. Mm-hmm. Before that, we had 3 Star Wars films, Blade Runner, Alien, and 2001: A Space Odyssey. Yeah. There is no excuse, especially when considering this film had a higher budget than all of them. Mm-hmm. I think. I don't know about Star Wars.
It was disgusting.
I know it had higher than the first Star Wars, but even the first Star Wars had better special effects. This one, This film had to give you a comparison. This film had a $40-something million budget. Blade Runner had like 21. That should tell you everything you need to know about.
Insulting.
Where did that money go? They didn't have they weren't big name actors back then.
Yeah,
they weren't the biggest name actors. I think
the
biggest one was Lady Jessica. I'm pretty sure, and even her, I don't remember her name.
What did Patrick Stewart? That point.
Oh, well, you know what? Yeah, maybe Patrick Stewart. But he was barely in the film. He was barely in the film, though.
When was Star Trek? I really don't know when Star Trek.
I think it was late 80s, early 90s. Was that his, big... Well, that wasn't his big breakout.
I couldn't tell you.
But look, here's the deal.
I haven't watched a lot of Star Trek. I'm planning next semester. I've talked with a buddy. We plan to watch, all of Star Trek next semester. But
anyway, where did all that money go? Where did all that money go?
I couldn't tell you. I would say production design, but...
I'm going to read it. Maybe it was just a really bad production. They just kept forking more money into it. There's no way that was pleasant to shoot.
Yeah, for real.
Okay,
music.
So
music.
The best part.
Music was good.
The best part.
My only complaint is, at one point... the guitar kicked in a song, and I looked at Dewberry and I went... God bless America. It was that song.
I started laughing.
It was just that song.
It was in the final battle. After I think it was actually after they had just finished winning, and they were like, the Harkonnens were like being defeated on their retreat, and he's like on the worm. Paul is, and he's riding the worm, and he almost looks directly in the camera. He looks just past the camera. He's like smiling and just riding with like fake wind blowing his permed hair back when he's lived in this desert for years. So I mean, that shit would have been matted down as fuck. But whatever.
Yeah.
He's riding, and he's just smiling.
If in the desert, shave my head.
Oh, by the way, we'll get to this in a second. But they were riding, and just God bless America.
Yeah,
came on, and by the way, they had weapons in this movie, where basically if these are not in the book. I don't understand how these work. It's never explained how this works. They have these weapons.
No, they do explain it
kind
poorly.
of very poorly. Here's essentially I'll tell you how they explained it. It's this gun that you hold, and you have this thing wrapped around your neck.
With a microphone that sticks up towards your mouth.
And when you speak, it charges the gun, and then you blow, like you shoot like a beam of energy at something.
It's basically turning the idea in your mind into weaponized sound waves. And it's the stupidest shit I have ever heard.
Trash.
Anyway, music, I give it like a 7.
Yeah, I can
the music was really good.
This is the reason. This right here is going to be the reason this film gets a 4 overall.
Yeah,
it's just 'cause of the
probably.
music. Fuck it, make it a 10.
Yeah. Anyway,
I'm not giving it a 10 to just God bless America.
No.
If anything, that might take it down a little bit just because it doesn't fit.
So we have our numbers here. Let's crunch these, and we'll hit you with that score, baby. All right, so we get the numbers here.
Mm-hmm.
We give this film a
2.34.
Yikes.
F.
It is
failure.
What we need to do is we need to like go through and assign each number like a slang, like like above a 9 is a goated film.
Yeah.
This is a
toothpick to the eye or something. I don't know,
that ain't
man.
it, Chief.
Yeah, that ain't it, Chief.
Just got off the phone with the Chief. Turns out it ain't it.
That
bad movie.
Short list of things that this ain't. It's
not
bad.
Not good.
It's really bad.
We will soon, probably not on the next podcast. We will watch the miniseries and then we'll talk about it and we will review it on the podcast.
I mean, hell, with coronavirus, I mean, the other films' releases indefinitely pushed back.
Yeah,
so,
we're gonna be doing
forever.
We're gonna be doing older things for a minute, but we've talked about this is not set in stone. We never want to set things in stone because the last time we said we'd do something on our next podcast, we didn't. But
did we not? I mean, it was a 4th of July special. I kind of,
but still,
we said we were going to do Andy Ferrish. On the third one, we said we were going to do Andy Ferrish. The next one, we did the 4th of July special. But then on the 5th one, we did review it. Yeah.
So the plan right now, as it stands, is to do Office Space as our next review, which is a film that I hold very dear to my heart. Yeah. I will try to be unbiased for that review as hard as I can.
Listen,
but again, I hold it very dear to my heart.
We've done 2 reviews in a row where the films were both very bad, and we can promise you, Office Space is not one of those films that we love for all the wrong reasons. We love it for all the right reasons.
Yes.
And we are going to give an unbiased review.
I will be unbiased. I will try to take the step back from how dear it is to me and be very fair with it.
Mm-hmm. So be looking forward to that. If you haven't seen it, watch it this week.
Please
watch it before you do yourself a favor.
Yeah,
watch the film.
If you haven't watched that movie, you're cutting yourself short.
And we're gonna review it next week. As always, our reviews are spoiler. They are all spoiler reviews.
Spoiler review.
So if you want to hear anything that we have to review, be sure to watch it and then come back.
Watch it or skip ahead.
Unless you just don't care about spoilers.
Yeah.
Again,
some people don't.
Listen,
look, this movie came out in the 90s.
Most of the time,
it's fair game.
Listen, when we review a film, most of the time I suggest that you go watch it, right? Mm-hmm. This is a film, Dune 1984 is a film I do not suggest you go watch. Don't watch it.
Would not recommend this movie to anyone.
Yeah, like if you really want, if you're just a diehard fan that wants like to absorb all of the Dune content, I mean, do it.
Yeah, if you haven't read the book, but you plan on seeing Denis Villeneuve's version, and you just want to know how it stacks up, watch it. But other than that,
I can promise.
Don't recommend.
It's not. It can't be. There's no way that Denis can be.
Back to real quick before we end. Thufir Hawat. His eyebrows. Just.
Oh.
If you're listening to this right now,
it's too late.
Pull up Google. Type in Dune 1984 Thufir, Thufir. Hawat is, I think, Hawit.
I don't know.
And Google images and just look at that motherfucker's eyebrows.
Here's the deal. It's like that Earth meme where the astronaut's looking at Earth and it's just his eyebrows and it's just Thufir's eyebrows. Always has been.
Always has been.